Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be going over some free agent options at the tight end position that could interest the Washington Commanders. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content, also with that like button and that notification bell as well. And go ahead and check out Manscaped, link in the description. Use code PEDR20 for 20% off your first purchase and free shipping. They're a great site, great hygiene, and grooming products. So this is going to be the start of my off-season series where I go over position by position and go over some potential targets for the Commanders in free agency. And right now, I'm starting with the tight end position because I do believe it is a top 5 need for the Commanders in terms of positions they need to address. I would say offensive line, tight end, cornerback, and linebacker, all positions I would address. And quarterback, of course, if you can find a significant upgrade and someone unexpected becomes available, sure, but I think it's Sam Howell's season for this year. And then if he's that guy, great. If not, then you're still looking for a quarterback next year. But Logan Thomas, let's start off with Logan Thomas. I do think that it would make sense for the Commanders to move on from Logan Thomas. I don't have the exact number with me right now, but they will save us, I believe it's $5+ million if they move on from Logan Thomas, if they release him. And he just didn't have great production this past season. 39 catches for 323 yards. Yes, I understand he's coming off a major injury, like a major injury. Torn ACL, meniscus, and I believe LCL, but still, 323 yards just is not going to cut it when you're the primary target at the tight end position. No one was stealing targets away from it at all. John Bates is a blocking tight end, and Armani Rogers was getting some touches, but he was hurt for most of the year, and Cole Turner wasn't doing anything. So for him to only get 323 yards as the veteran of the group, the pass catcher of the group, and also combine that with some penalties, he had a couple holdings and false starts, and then just terrible blocking. I mean, Scott Turner was bad, but there's some times when he would design a good play, and then Logan Thomas would just absolutely miss his blocker's assignment, and there would be a negative rush, and that just cannot happen. And yeah, of course, you got to know your personnel too. Logan Thomas isn't the best blocker, but he should be able to make some simple blocks, and he wasn't able to do that. So I think it does make sense for the Commanders to move on from Logan Thomas. If they want to keep him here, okay, but you got to reduce that salary because he's not a guy worthy of making, at least his production doesn't match $9 million a year, which I believe his contract's about $8.5 million a year, but he's been on the team for, I believe, 2 seasons after that contract extension, so, the first couple years are a little bit lower, so I bet, it's a little higher this year, and I think it just makes sense to move on from him. And if you look at the rest of the tight end room, I like John Bates as a blocking tight end, nothing more. He should be on the roster for the remainder of his contract here, but he's a good blocker and occasionally can catch a pass or two, but that is it. And then Cole Turner and Armani Rogers are, potential prospects, potential guys that, could be options down the line. They have potential, and Armani Rogers has shown some flashes, and Cole Turner showed some flashes in college and in training camp, but none of them really stepped up this year, and both of them did deal with injuries. And Armani Rogers missed a lot of time, Cole Turner missed some time. So I think maybe potentially, let's say you move on from Logan Thomas, you stick with John Bates, and then you let Cole Turner and Armani Rogers see which one of those two steps up and can be a contributor for you this year. I think that'll probably be Armani Rogers, but who knows? I think you let those guys battle out. You bring back John Bates as a blocker and sign a veteran, or maybe potentially draft a guy. But right now, we're going to talk about drafting a guy, and there aren't many great options. Let's talk about some of the bigger names. You got Evan Ingram, Dalton Schultz, Robert Tonyan, Austin Hooper, Foster Moreau, Hayden Hurst, Jordan Atkins, Gesicki, Irv Smith, OJ Howard, guys like that. So no one crazy intriguing, and I don't think anyone really here is going to break the bank in terms of how much it takes to get them. I saw they had the market value for Dalton Schultz at $15 million a year. He's not getting $15 million a year. A tight end that got you 600 yards in 15 games, I'm sorry, it's not getting you 50. That's $10 million a year max. So let's get into some options. So we don't need someone that's a baller. We need someone that can get us 400 to 600 yards at a relatively cheap price. Okay? So you look at Robert Tonyan, he's making $4 million a year. Jordan Atkins $1 million. Foster Moreau under $1 million. Hayden Hurst $3.5 million. Kind of in that range. Maybe Austin Hooper at $6 million. I think that's a little expensive, but still. Let's start with Austin Hooper. I think that's an option for the Commanders at tight end this offseason. They were interested in him in the 2020, going into the 2020 season. He was kind of a disappointment for the Browns. I mean, over the 2 years, got about 800 yards, less than 800 yards for the Cleveland Browns, and it was the highest paid tight end when he signed that deal. 7 touchdowns. This year with the Tennessee Titans, played in all 17 games, 41 catches, 444 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Is that amazing? No. But if you can get him for $4 million, I'll take that production, which is more than Logan Thomas had, for cheaper, and he might be a little bit younger, probably around the same age. So I think Austin Hooper is an option. If you move on from Logan Thomas, Austin Hooper I think is a little bit better than him, and you can get him for cheaper. And it doesn't like significantly improve your tight end room, but it might take it from a C minus, D plus to a C, or if it was a D plus, maybe it'll bring it up to a C minus. And if one of your tight ends, young tight ends, develops a little bit, that can bring it up a little bit more as well, and it can slowly progress. We don't need to make this tight end room elite. That would be great, but if you can just get it a little bit better, that is definitely improvement. So I think Hurst, that'll be next, but Austin Hooper, anywhere from $3 to $5 million, I'm willing to sign him for a 1-year deal, and yeah, that I would do that if you can save some money on the Logan Thomas deal first. Next guy, Hayden Hurst. It's a guy that I don't think is going to break the bank either. I think you can probably get him for around what Austin Hooper cost this year in 13 games. Injuries the last couple years have been a little bit of an issue. 26 games over the last 2 years, but in this year he had 414 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you really look at that, that's about 30 less yards than what Hooper got, but in 4 less games. So, I mean, I'm just doing quick math. I mean, not even math. I'm just guessing. He was probably on pace for around 550, 540 if you would have played 17 games and maybe a touchdown more. So that's a big upgrade over Logan Thomas, and it's going to be cheaper. He's an option, was a first or second round pick for the Ravens, and never really worked out. Was a solid blocker, had a solid year in 2020 with the Falcons, almost 600 yards. 2021 was a disappointment, and this year he was a solid weapon for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think his production will probably be a little bit lower here, but let's say he plays 17 games, I think he could get you around 500 yards for you. Next guy, this one was interesting because you look at him, his production, man, took a big dip in 2022, and he played 17 games. First year 200, then almost 600, then 700, then almost 800 yards in 2021, and then that production cut down by more than half in 2021. Only 362 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is good. That's basically he averages around, if you take out his rookie year, around 4 or 5 touchdowns, and he got 5 in 2022. But the yards were way down, and that's understandable because you did add Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle's a beast, and Cedric Wilson was added, but that is concerning. So I don't think he's going to cost as much as he would have after the 2021 season. If you can get him, and he's more of a hybrid between wide receiver and tight end anyways, but if you can get him for like $6 million or cheaper, I would do that. I really think he's going to try to, do a 1-year deal just because his production was not good this year, and he's not going to get a great long-term, he won't be able to get the money he wanted to get after the 2021 season. So if you can get him for cheap, I would consider it, but I just don't like that huge dip in production. And he played 17 games. I didn't watch a ton of Dolphins fans, so I can't really tell you what went wrong there, but that to me is concerning, a little bit of a red flag. So that is a third guy, and at the end I'll talk about which ones I like. Foster Moreau. This guy to me is a little bit of a sleeper. So, I don't know where he was drafted, but not a first-round pick, obviously. He's played for the Raiders his whole career. First year, about 200 yards and a little bit of a dip, 140, then close to 400, and this year, over 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. And played in 15 games, so if you add a couple more games in there, he's close to 500. And he was playing behind Darren Waller, and this year got a little bit more production just because Darren Waller was out for probably, like 8 games. So that definitely helped his production. But you have to think about it. For about half the season, he was playing as a backup tight end. And, obviously 2019, 2020, and 2021, he was as well. So that's why his production is a little bit lower. So I'm thinking as a tight end 1, could his production increase? I think it could. I think if he played 17 games this year and was a tight end 1, maybe he gets around 550, and I think his market value isn't going to be too high. I want to see if they have anything for him. So what would his market value be? And again, Spot Track's a little bit iffy because they have him at 4 years, 36 mil, about 9 a year. I just don't really necessarily agree with that. And if you look at some of their other projections, like they have Taylor Heineke's 19 mil a year. Sorry, no one's given Taylor Heineke 19 mil a year, but I would probably give Foster Moreau like 7 mil, 6 mil, because I think his production is going to be more than Logan Thomas, and he's younger. Like, I think this guy could potentially do something in the league, be a solid tight end, like an average to above average starter. And yeah, 6, 7 mil, I would potentially do that. Next guy, Evan Ingram. So this one, it's a little, I don't know, it's risky. He's going to probably demand the most money out of any tight end this offseason. I want to see what they have as his market value. So 9 mil, I really disagree. Like, I don't know where they're coming up with these numbers, because he made $9 million this year, and that was coming off a year where he had 400 yards. This year, basically doubled that, getting to 766. He's going to make more money, I believe, than 9 mil, or it'll be like a longer term deal, like a 3-year, $30 million deal. He's going to cost more, but he is a dynamic weapon. He's, again, a little more of a receiver than a tight end, but he is a bigger, I think he's 6'6", something like that. Just look. He played well for the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially down the stretch for sure. So he is 6'3", 240 pounds. So definitely a little bit of a mix between a tight end and receiver. He's a guy that definitely does intrigue me. Look at what he did down the stretch. And overall, he had a good season for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I don't know. I think it would be a little bit too expensive for my liking, and I just don't, he's again, mix between a receiver and tight end. We've got a lot of good receivers, so that's just what we'll see. So those are kind of 5 guys, and one other guy that intrigues me, he was supposed to be on this list, is Irv Smith. He intrigues me. He's young. He's a guy that definitely is more of a project. I believe he was a 2nd-round pick, out of Alabama in rookie year, 311 yards. Then in 13 games, 365, and then this year was hurt and missed the rest of the year with an ankle injury. Had 182 yards. He's probably going to leave in free agency, and he's another option for sure. He's a little bit more upside, but definitely more risk because he hasn't really produced at a high level so far. And then Dalton Schultz is another option. So for me, the options I like out of these the most, I think Austin Hooper's all right. I would say Hayden Hurst is a good option. Get him for pretty cheap and at a good production. Foster Moreau is probably my favorite option right now. Low cost, and he's got some good potential. He's been sitting behind Darren Waller for a while. And then, Dalton Schultz would be okay, but I'm not giving him what they said right here, which is $15 million. He's not worth $15 million at all, when there's a lot of guys that similar production that you can get for $4, $5, $6 million a year. So that is it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video, and check out Manscaped, link in the description. Peace, guys.